Hey y'all, MsMalcolmHughes back with another book review, and today I am going to be discussing A Deeper Love Inside, the Porsche Santiaga Story by Sister Souljah. So the Porsche Santiaga Story is obviously about Porsche, the little sister of Winter Santiaga, and her journey. So what we don't learn from the coldest winter ever is what happens to Porsche after she is in the foster care system. We see Winter and Lana, the mom, go visit her one time, and that's it. So the Porsche Santiago Story takes us on that complete journey. We learn that Porsche for a while went from different group homes to different group homes, foster care homes, things along those lines, and then she eventually ends up in juvie for stabbing a caseworker who said something disrespectful about her family. We get to go on this journey with Porsche while she's incarcerated, learn the family that she makes while she's incarcerated, what happens when she gets out, and the journey into becoming a young woman. And I have to say this, one frustration with Sister Souljah throughout every book after The Coldest Winter Ever is that it doesn't necessarily support and align with the story that was presented with The Coldest Winter Ever. That still stands true here. So I'm just gonna start reviewing her books from two lenses. One, if you include this in the context of The Coldest Winter Ever. Two, if you include it as a standalone book. I think they're completely different reads if you view it from those two different perspectives. So with this book, if you take it from the lens of The Coldest Winter Ever and the alignment with that story, you have many questions. Like, we didn't get this full background story on Porsche in The Coldest Winter Ever. Obviously, it was Winter's story and not Porsche's. But we didn't really learn about her dancing and that interest and the mother really supporting her in that capacity. Though not far-fetched, that could be true, right? We really focused on Winter, but obviously the other sisters had a life as well. And hopefully Lana would have supported them in that. Doesn't necessarily seem to be a character, but it could have, right? Could have happened. Another big inconsistency is the fact that Porsche is trying to help the mom and works with her and trying to get her clean. We get no inkling of that in The Coldest Winter Ever. Again, from Winter's perspective, I don't know if y'all remember the story. I told you I met Sister Souljah. That was her big argument when I told her she changed the storyline, was that The Coldest Winter Ever was from Winter's perspective and that the Porsche Santiago story is from Porsche's perspective. Cool, so I can see that. Yeah, I know I didn't like it, but I can see it. However, out of all the small inconsistencies, the biggest inconsistency for me is the recalling of the funeral. In this book, it's just a completely different scene. Situations change to fit the storyline. And it was just a little off-putting for me, right? So if I view it from the lens of The Coldest Winter Ever and the alignment with that story, I think there are some gaps. I think there are some apparent changes. And with that in mind, it decreases the grade in which I would give the book. Now, talking about it as if it were an independent storyline, I actually think this book is really good. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I actually think this book is really good. I really enjoy it. Definitely some of the top books from Sister Souljah for me. I think if I were to rate Sister Souljah's books, The Coldest Winter Ever, the first two Midnight books, and then this one, I think that's the rank for me. So I think that they're all good books, and if they stand independent of each other, if they stand as some cohesive or continuous part of a story, then we get problems and flaws. But this storyline I think is really good. We get to see a young girl grow and evolve and bloom and blossom into a beautiful young woman. I know a lot of people were upset with the Siri character and the fact that Porsche has, some would say an imaginary friend, has a split personality. I didn't think it was far-fetched. People thought it was far-fetched and just outlandish. I actually disagree. I think it's quite possible and easily feasible. Like, this young girl had extreme traumatic experiences, traumatic experience after traumatic experience after traumatic experience. Of course she was split within herself or find different ways to try to cope. People did have coping mechanisms all the time. This was her. She needed a protector. She needed a comforter. She needed someone who would go through these experiences with her so that she wouldn't be so alone. So for me, that made complete sense. I didn't think that that was far-fetched or that Sister Souljah pulled that out of a hat. That actually makes sense. And I think that adds to the substance of Porsche, especially when she finds someone who's like, I accept all of you. And I think that's beautiful. Another point that I really love about this book is Sister Souljah created strong characters, just super dope characters that stick out in your mind. I love that there's so many fierce women characters who support each other and are loyal to each other. I believe that there's a code that a lot of people don't operate by these days, but I think it's still prevalent here, okay? So I think that that is beautiful. I love that they have that kinship and that desire to not only help each other but protect each other. And if you tell on me, you tell on yourself. And we're in, like, no matter what, you stick to your code. And I think that that's super important, because often when people talk about codes, they often use it in the like sense of men, but women have codes too. Humans have codes. You have to have a moral compass that guides you, and I love that that's so prevalent here. Another thing that happens with this book, and I don't think Sister Souljah did it intentionally, or maybe she did, was there's a point at which I stopped and pondered, is any of this real? And I think that's something I've realized with Sister Souljah. She doesn't necessarily have the most reliable narrators. Like, her characters are not necessarily reliable. And I guess that's her point of saying that it's from this person's perspective or that person's perspective, that does not answer all of the gaps. But I do get that here. So at one point in time, when Midnight is talking to Porsche about, just where have you been? I was searching for you, and did this really happen? Did this exist? What is happening here? I definitely paused and was like, wait, was she in this insane asylum the whole time? Is this fake? So I think that's good storytelling, and the fact that it's not, but then it also is a larger message about systems and our judicial system and what they can manipulate to present a story of their own making that they want folks to believe. So I thought it was layered and multifaceted, and I appreciated that. Again, I think one thing that was a little frustrating, but it's true to life, is that the way in which Porsche remembers Lionel or remembers Winter and her family, she idolizes them, and I think we all do that. So I think that even though it was frustrating to read, I know I've had to grapple with that in my own life, of just certain family members that I've idolized, and you get older and you realize that they are human and they're flawed. And what does that mean? Because you set them up on this pedestal, and so much of that has impacted the decisions that you've made, and then you have to kind of grow from that and heal from that and unpack all of that and relearn things. So even though it was sometimes frustrating to read here, I do think that it was accurate and very realistic, and something that folks needed to consider. And I think it's lessons here for the reader. I think Sister Souljah is a writer who definitely is always trying to send a message without beating you over the head with it, even though sometimes folks feel as if she does. But I think she's always coming from a place of care for her readers and a desire to ensure that they're walking away with life lessons. There is one area in this book that I think that Sister Souljah had a very missed opportunity, and I think she tried to touch on it. I just don't think she went all the way, and that was really when dealing with sexual identity and gender identity in general, especially with the character Lil Man. She referenced the fact that Lil Man wanted to be referred to as Lil Man and identify as a boy. She still had all the characters referring to that character as her and sis and things along those lines. And I think that it would have been super dope if Lil Man requested to be called he, then the pronoun just shifted, then it became he. I think that would have just been super kind of revolutionary in a sense, especially when this book came out and the audience for this book. I think that would have been a huge shift. It's just something small, right? You already referenced it. You already referenced it. Just take that next step and go all the way. And then also with Riot, and it's just the gender identity and playing with that. And I think there was an opportunity there that was missed. I don't necessarily think that that is a topic that Sister Souljah intends to unpack. I don't ever think that's her focus. So I get that she didn't, but I do think there was an opportunity here that could have been had that she decided not to pick up. But overall, I love this story. Obviously, it's a little fantastical in the sense of the romance and whether the feasibility of it. Sometimes things seem a little too idealistic, but it was cute, and you wanted that. You wanted that for Porsche. Even more so, I think, than the Midnight character. I think Elisha is probably my favorite male character that Sister Souljah has written, because he's so authentically him, and he's a good balance of someone with a really genuine heart and care for the people and super charismatic. I think in the ways in which Midnight is reserved, Elisha is like not in your face, not overly so, just a confident, real charismatic dude who just navigates the world from a place of like love, right? But also, this is mine, respected, right? So also just a strong internal just knowingness of who he is. And we also get to learn about the family that created that, and we have a mother who's the breadwinner, but also understanding that the father sacrificed in order to put her on that pedestal and put her in that position, and the family that they've created. So I think that there's so much richness in this story, and I think it's well done, and I really liked it. So if I'm honestly, y'all, I'm gonna end up telling y'all the grade that I settled on, and I'm gonna tell you why. I think that if I'm reading this book with no consideration of the coldest winter ever, and I'm just picking it up and I'm just enjoying the story, it's an A for me. It's an A book for me. I think that if I'm reading this book in the scope of the coldest winter ever, and the gaps in the storyline and what I feel like are changes, then it goes down to like a B- for me, because it's still a great story. But girl, don't be changing things and acting like I'm not gonna observe it or realize that you changed it. So for me, when I settle on this book, I give it an A-. That's where I landed, an A- B+. Because I think, again, if you gotta read these books from two different lenses. One, in the scope of the coldest winter ever, if you read it as a standalone book, it's really good. I really enjoyed it. I would read it again. This is actually my second time reading it. I read it when it first came out, and this time reading it, it's been years, so it's a completely new experience. And I was like, I really like this book, and I remember liking it then as well. I remember flying through it in like a day. I took like a whole Saturday and just read it. So yeah, I think that she did a great job. So that's what I have to say about Porsche, the Porsche Santiaga story. Porsche is probably easily one of my favorite characters from the book, flaws and all. And I think there's a lot of strong characters in this book that folks can relate to and identify with, and there's messages for all of us. So I like it. I would definitely say read it and check it out. All right, y'all, more book reviews to come, obviously. If you have not seen it, please head over and watch my read along video for Life After Death by Sister Souljah. So I read chapter 1 on live and posted the video over there. Good conversation brewing in the comments over there, so go ahead and check that out. I'm gonna post a video soon. And also, the reason why y'all are not seeing a books I'm reading in March video is because obviously I didn't make it through the books in February. So the only new book I'm adding for March is actually Life After Death. And I think you all anticipated that. So yeah, Life After Death is the only new book I'm adding. I'm catching up on my February reads. More folks have been sending me their books to read, which I'm super grateful for. So you'll see new books coming in April, but right now getting caught up and reading Life After Death. You get a little insight into the book, like I said in my read along video, and my full review of the book will be coming soon. All right, y'all, as always, I am MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. So get lit, right? Get lit. And until next time, be safe and be kind to each other. And I also, y'all don't know this, y'all know I've been learning Spanish for a long time, but I'm currently learning Yoruba. So, odabo, bye. Also, for those of you inquiring, I do still have buttons, my Ms. Malcolm Hughes pins, and the details on how to get those are below.